What role did India play in the Second World War? Introduction. The Second World War erupted in tension and the need to acquire international supremacy in various countries. However, many countries played diverse roles in promoting the success of their allies. The British held territories in India with over 600 autonomous princely states. The question is, what role did India play in the Second World War? India played a diverse role, such as providing military assistance and an autonomous refreshment base for Britain and the Indian Army. These roles greatly impacted the British maneuvers to overcome the Imperial Japanese and German troops. Historiography. The Indian Army fought in distinction worldwide. Their idea was to create harmony and defend Indians against any external threat by either the Japanese or the Germans. The historical perspective of Indian engagements in World War II has been linked with the populace. The population of India was so large that men could easily engage in international welfare. The political climate was critical to India's engagement in the Second World War. Viceroy Linlithgow avowed that India was at war with Germany, with no further talks with the other politicians. This fueled a lot of external pressure on the Indian administration, thus leading to direct intervention measures to protect the country. India consistently participated in the Allied campaign, which remained strong throughout the war. The British government and its associations focused on using Indians due to their strong financial and military capabilities. This was done to build a strong team against British enemies such as Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. The strategic position at the tip of the Indian Ocean and its extensive access to weaponry were the ideal factors the British government considered while determining their strongholds. Different historians have varied thoughts on the Indian engagement in World War II. The critical consideration is based on the colonial masters who forced the Indian Army to engage in military welfare. Some believe India was strategically located to quickly acquire an army weapon and easily access the East African countries. The British government used India to access Africa for easy colonization. Historians also believe that India was a rich country in terms of human labor and raw materials. The British tried to protect these items from foreign invasion by Imperial Japan and Germany. This ideally led to conflict amongst the three governments, thus creating an avenue for the British to use Indians to secure their resources. The tremendous armed force played a crucial role in hindering the military advancement of Imperial Japan in the Southeast Asian region. The Indian Army was the most significant population. More than 2 million Indian troops were directly engaged in the Second World War. As a result, by the war's end, India became one of the major industrial powers, and its financial and military inspiration paved the way for the United Kingdom. To overcome Japan, the British formed a military force known as the British Indian Army. This campaign effectively allowed British leadership to win the Second World War. Britain lacked enough personnel. It only focused on their colonies to provide personnel for war. As a colony of Britain, India fought with the Allies. The Indian Army lost more than 35,000 military men in the war, while 34,000 were seriously wounded, and 67,000 were captured as prisoners of war. The critical operating base for the Indian Army was in the Asian theater, mainly fighting Japan in Southeast Asia. The other action areas were based in North and East Africa. The increase in colonialism forced valorous Indian freedom fighters Subhash Chandra Bose to form a resistance movement that sided with the Axis to help Indians get out of the British domain. The division across the Indian community led to massive death and defeat during the Second World War. This led to a fast movement to secure the country's independence from the British colonies. The Indian Army made a lot of effort to help Allied parties and create an avenue to liberate their country. This ideal circumstance motivated many Indians to engage in the military welfare guided by freedom fighters and the British Army. The factual circumstances surrounding the contributory factors for Indians in World War II are based on various achievements during this period. The Indian Armed Forces received 15% of the Victoria Cross Awards in the Second World War. This reflects the outstanding contribution to World War II. Most of the Indian Army was engaged in voluntary activities. The Indian Armed Forces had under 200,000 men in 1939, yet more than 2 million people were directly involved in the war against the Axis powers. The massive voluntary expansion of the Indian Army ended the tradition of a majority Punjabi army, thus leading to military intelligence and loyalty. The British Army's engagement in Indian activities forced many Indians to consider various production activities to improve their livelihood. This created trust between Indians and their colonial master, Britain, since there was an improved lifestyle. The Indian Army served in all theaters of the Second World War. Various divisions operated in different localities in which the Indian Army was directly engaged. Indian forces fought abroad and were instrumental in the victories in their home country. For example, the victory at Impol and Kohima, when the Japanese imperial tide was stemmed, prevented the invasion of India. This denotes their critical role in protecting their country from external invasion during the war. The Second World War helped Indians achieve their independence. The engagement of Indian troops in World War II helped them realize the importance of their country's independence. In 1941, Roosevelt and Churchill signed an agreement setting out the common ideals for the post-war world. The charter highlighted the need to ensure Indians enjoy sovereign rights and self-government restored to those who have been forcibly deprived of them. The Indian contribution to World War II went beyond soldiers. Indian men and women from all walks of life supported the war effort to end fascism. Men and women worked closely by supplying food and medical attention to the soldiers. Merchants and businesspeople provided material and food for soldiers in Europe and Africa. The nation collected food and other essential materials to support the war at home. For example, Kolkata was the Allies' recreation center, which British soldiers stopped and recuperated before returning to the battlefield. Conclusion. India's engagement in World War II significantly impacted welfare outcomes. Many Indians were involved in World War II, most of whom were semi-skilled. Their contribution activities were linked to the large population willing to engage in the war actively. The Indian Army was amongst the most significant troops involved in the war. Others provided moral and physical support, such as food and medics. As a result, India actively achieved success by assisting Britain in fighting its enemies, such as Imperial Japan and Germany.